Welcome everyone to the CoLab, SpacetoCo's free monthly online sessions, which are designed to assist those working in community venues to learn, upskill and be inspired to do their work more effectively and efficiently. We hope you find these sessions useful for the important work that you do in our communities. If you're someone who's scrolling through and found this month's topic intriguing but don't work in community venues, then you're also very welcome here. For those who are watching this recording after the live event, hello, and we hope you get valuable knowledge from this session. My name is SpacetoCo. Before we move on, our mission at SpacetoCo is to help community venues be a thriving hub in their communities by being able to help and provide opportunities to grow bookings, increase community engagement, as well as support. This is why we started the CoLab series, amongst other things. We also create and provide free resources to be able to do exactly that. SpacetoCo is a two-sided marketplace where you can list your spaces, where guests can find them online and book your spaces. But it's also an efficient booking system tool where you can reduce your admin by 80%. We also work with a number of local governments as well as community centres across Australia and New Zealand. So my name is Elle, and today we're here to talk to Jill Kayser at St Heliers Community Centre, and this session will hope to help you optimise your utilisation of local community venues, from leveraging space effectively to fostering meaningful connections within the community. Our speaker will share valuable insights and practical tips to enhance your community venue experience, as well as the ABCs of community development. And just as a quick introduction to Jill, so Jill is the Centre Manager and Community Ministry Leader of St Heliers and Glendowie Community Centres. Jill was part of the team who established the community centre almost 30 years ago. Sorry, just one second. I have a dog that's misbehaving in the background. Ready? Right, all I can hear is him. All I can hear is him scraping the bed. I should have chucked him out. So welcome, Jill. So Jill was part of the team who established the community centre almost 30 years ago, and after pursuing a career in communications, training and community development, she returned to lead the organisation in 2021 after it needed a new strategic direction in the wake of COVID and other issues. Today, the community centres are thriving, and more than 175,000 people enjoy the centre's outstanding facilities every year. And on a personal note, I just want to say thank you so much to Jill for sharing your knowledge with us today. Whenever I talk to Jill, I'm just in awe of her dedication to her work, her vision for her community and what she's achieved. So I'm really looking forward to learning more from her today.
Hi everyone. Boy, it's quite kind of different really, I guess, being online to present. I'm so used to being, with people where you can feel the energy and become friends quickly. So this is new for me to present online. And so I was just saying to Elle, I really hope that people will ask lots of questions, and also something might, I might give an example of what we do, and you might think, oh, we do something different to that, but it really works for us. And I'd love you to share that because, of course, we are all experts in community development and we're all learners. So I know that we can all offer something and also learn something, hopefully, today. So to start, as Elle said in her introduction, I was part of the team that actually set up the community centre over 30 years ago. And I had, I worked here for 8 years, and then I had a big break of other careers for 17 years, and then came back when the community centre was having hard times as a result of COVID and also leadership issues. So they were losing lots and lots of money and very much down in the dumps. And so I came back in 22 to help them get back on track, which was for me a real, I guess, privilege, but also fairly easy in that I was so certain about what we're doing and why we're doing it. And we're going to talk a bit about that today. So to start with, I thought I'd share a little story that actually is a sort of introductory video that SpacetoCo put together for us. And it just gives you a bit of insight into what we're trying to do here before we go on to the next section. So St Heliers Community Centre was started over 30 years ago. It was a collaboration between the church, St Heliers Presbyterian Church, and Auckland City Council, which was quite a unique thing at that time. The minister of the time decided that we had a wonderful premises, and that wouldn't it be great if it was like the centre of the village, as the church used to be in the old days, really. A place where people could come and belong and make it their place, regardless of their beliefs or cultures or faiths or anything. And so it was a dream, and it's been fulfilled. And yeah, 30 years later, here we are, still living the dream, really. So my name's Jill Kayser, and I'm the centre manager at St Heliers, and I also lead some community ministries. St Heliers Centre has a range of facilities, some really large meeting spaces, but also some more intimate kind of small rooms for counselling or piano lessons. We also have a large, what we call our community lounge, which is our free space. So I think people are just like quite amazed that there are so many, really user-friendly, high-quality spaces. And, the business world has found us too. And when the business people come in and run a whole day's course, it's very affordable, it's very accessible. Interesting enough, even my own daughter, who has grown up knowing this place, had an emergency where it was raining when it was her 2-year-old's birthday party, and phoned me, "Mom, help!" And I said, "Don't worry, upper hall's available." And she came in, and all her friends were just going, "What an amazing place for a child's birthday party," So I think it's like, it's just, again, it's a collaboration, a partnership. Whatever happens here will then impact the local village, both economically but also socially, just creating this whole area where it's friendly and this place of belonging. And, so that's our hope anyway, is that it's like on top of the hill and then straight down into the village. Yes, so looking at the topic that I was, asked to present on, making the most of your community venue, I thought, well, that's a very wide topic, and I could almost get away with anything because it's wide enough to drive a truck through. So I guess I just had to decide, well, what could possibly be helpful? And so I thought I would start at the very beginning, like Maria from The Sound of Music. And when you read, you begin with ABC. So we're starting with ABC and not Do, Re, Mi. And because I'm starting with A, it's probably not all in the order I would normally, present it in. But hey, for what it's worth, let's start with A. And so I was thinking about the ABCs of community development or serving community. And I thought, the first thing is we're not alone. And it doesn't matter how long you've done it for or how short you've done it for. You're not alone. As we've worked out today, there's all these people online, and there's a whole community that are connected to us through our local councils, our local boards, our local community, and SpacetoCo. There are just so many people that we can actually tap into to access. And so I want you to just take a couple of seconds to think about who are your most regular go-tos. When you get stuck, who do you actually tap into? Because that is key, is that you're never alone, whether it's writing a very complicated policy or going through a personal grievance or whatever. Sometimes it can feel so incredibly overwhelming, but just remember, you're not alone. You can ask for help, and you can ask for feedback too. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that because I think with feedback, we sometimes sort of veer away from it, and we want the good feedback, but we don't want harsh or critical feedback. And I guess what I've learned in my years of dealing with the public is that feedback is something that helps us grow and learn even when it's hard. And that the best way to receive feedback is to, one, ask for it. So think about in your own context, how do you ask for feedback? Do you have feedback forms in each space that you rent out? Do you meet with your clients when they arrive, and do you check in with them as they're leaving to see that everything's gone okay? Obviously, that's the most effective feedback. It's much better to get it that way than get it posted on SpacetoCo, which of course does happen as well. or get someone very grumpy on the phone, phoning you. I think what I've learned about dealing with the public and feedback is the first thing to do, and especially if it's someone grumpy who fronts up to you or phones you or even sends you a nasty email, is to say, thank you so much for your feedback. We really appreciate it. This is the only way we can improve our service. And so I've sort of learned, once you thank someone for their feedback, almost like disarms them, and they immediately stop being as grumpy as they started being. And of course, the other thing is, as we know, we always need to apologize, even when it's not warranted, even when we think, what a silly old grump this is. That's not true at all, what he's telling me. That actually say, I'm so sorry that was your experience, and we appreciate your feedback because we want to do better next time. So that brings me to the other A, which is attitude. And of course, that's very much part of the whole feedback thing. What is our attitude to people? Do we really believe that, not that the customer is always right, because the customer isn't always right, but do we believe that we're here to be in good relationship with our community? And therefore, everything we do, the way our staff is, the culture we embed in our organization is very much about projecting a very positive, hospitable, kind, loving attitude and atmosphere. And of course, that links into the kind of culture you have embedded in your organization. And so I want you to talk a bit about culture and what does that mean and how do you embed it? And also your vision and your values and your purpose. And when you think about vision, often when you use this kind of strategic language, you think, oh my goodness, how do you come up with a vision statement, or how do you identify for your team, or with your team, what your vision is? I always like to say, well, vision's a sense. And so let's start there. Let's have a look at our place. Let's ask ourselves, what does our place look like to an outsider? I mean, when they drive past, does it look welcoming? Do the gardens look neat? Are the doors open? And when they come in, what does it sound like? And what does it feel like? Do people feel welcome? Is the furniture acceptable to lounge on? So to me, that's like the core of what a vision is that to actually start with your senses. And then later on, you come to actually articulate that. And I think values is very important too, as you work either as a sole person or obviously easier for your sole person because it's just your values that you have to instill. But if you're in a team, to actually come to an agreement with your team as to what your values are as an organization, one, but also as a team. And of course, your purpose is extremely important. And I want to talk a bit about that as we go on. So I just wanted to show you, recently we had a staff planning meeting and we looked at the whole year. We had our calendar out. We looked at all the events we wanted to have and made sure we didn't have any clashes. And obviously we work in collaboration with the church. And so it's very important that we come up with our planning calendar together. And so we only in the last really probably 6 months, our staff has increased and we have a couple of new staff members on our team. And so we talk very much about our own staff values. Our organizational values and vision and mission is very much set in place. We did that 18 months ago, reviewed the whole lot and confirmed it. So that's one thing, but we also looked at our staff values and how do we actually relate as staff. Anyway, our newest staff member put together this little poster, so I thought I'd share that with you. And then just thinking about how do you, what is your mission? What is your purpose? Why do you do what you do? And then how do you share that with others? This I just took from our website, which makes, I think, it quite clear about what our mission or what our core business is or what our purpose is that for us, our overall core purpose is that we reach out to our community and we welcome all into this place. And so you'll see in the middle there, it says we are a community of people from all walks of life, backgrounds, cultures and beliefs seeking to love and serve our community and create a place of belonging. And our mission is to serve our community. So we're very clear here, even though we are very closely aligned with the church, that we are here to love people and to serve them and to create a place of belonging. We are not here to proselytize or to convert people to our way of thinking or to increase numbers of bums on our pews. That is not why we're here. Funny enough, that is one of the side effects of what we do, So people do sometimes come into our faith community because of the experience they've had in our community centre, but that's not our core purpose. So that's just looking at that section. I might just do this slide and then just stop and ask if there are questions, Elle, because this kind of just comes back to the ask and the feedback conversation. Just to go back, and I've used it as my B, because I remember someone saying to me years ago, when you get criticism or negative feedback, you do need to obviously consider whether it's valid, but sometimes it's not. And sometimes you can genuinely say, we really have done our best, and there's no ways we could actually better the way we did it. And so we're just going to bin this bit of feedback. We're going to not let it take sleep away from us. We're not going to stress about it. We're going to literally throw it in the bin. Of course, sometimes we do need to better it. So just to finish this slide, I sort of took poetic license here and put the B in debrief, because I think whatever we do in our community venues, whether it's a big event or whether it's a meeting or whether it's a planning day, I think it's really worthwhile to sit down either with yourself, if you're the only staff member, or if you have other staff members, to sit down with your team and just ask very quickly. It only takes 5 to 10 minutes, this debrief, and there's no forms or templates. Someone might want to take notes if it's an event, because then you want to learn for the next time. But what we do is we just ask ourselves what worked, and we congratulate ourselves for all the successes we had, whatever the event was. We ask what didn't work, and then, of course, that leads into what can we do better next time? And those 3 questions I have used for years and years and years. I've used it when I used to manage staff running holiday programs or after school care. We use it now for events, and we do document it. Obviously, if it's a holiday program, we decide the next day we can do it better. But if it's a big event, we decide next year we're going to do this differently, or we're going to do this better, or we're going to improve this, or we're going to learn from this. So that's probably time for me to take a breather before I go on to the C, which is really probably the core of what I think. Well, I think it's all important, but the C's have got lots of important things in it.
Thank you, Jill. So I encourage people to pop any questions that you have on what Jill's shared so far around asking for help, feedback, creating visions, mission, purpose, etc. I have a couple of questions to get us started off. So I wondered, when you were creating your values as a team, did you do that as a leadership team, or did you do that in collaboration with the community as well? And what advice do you have for venues that maybe haven't come up with their values yet? You mentioned use your senses, but are there any other ways in which that you gathered you came to those conclusions that those were your values?
Yeah, we've done 2 values exercises. The first was with our whole organisation, and because we're closely aligned with the church leadership was involved in that as well. So we had community centre leaders involved in the conversation, but also church leaders. Our community trust board is made up of church members, so they have a foot in both camp. And so we went through a whole visioning process, which probably took about 6 weeks of one night per week. And I certainly have a template for how we did that. And that's kind of the big exercise, where a whole lot of people are involved. And there's a process for actually identifying what are your values. And then a process I think it's really important to always start with your values. So, and when you think about values, it's like you ask the question, what are the non-negotiables for us? Like, so how do we want to be seen? What's really important to us, and what are the non-negotiables? So for us, one of our non-negotiables is exclusion. So, we want to be a really inclusive community. And that's both in our church and in our community centre. So once you kind of play around with words that you want to have, that you think are really important, you talk about, as I say, your senses, like how does it feel, how does it hear, how does it sound, how does it look? all those kind of things create words. And then you basically, I can share this with people if they want to know how to do it, but you basically then sift through them until eventually you have like 5 words that everyone agrees are the most important. Of course, with the staff values, it was much easier. We literally were just chatting and talking about some, just a few little, things that were not quite going well. We've got a community centre office, and we all sit in there and we laugh and we have tea together and we work and we, moan to each other. And then we have a minister who sits in a different office, but he's very much part of our organisation. And so we were finding that he was just a bit left out, and that sometimes we would have a whinge, but he wasn't involved, but it was about something that he was involved in. And so we decided, how can we stop doing that? How can we just, be really collaborative and honest and transparent and trusting of each other? So that was a very quick exercise where we just said, what are the things that are really important to us in our relationship as a staff? And we just all came up with words and very quickly agreed these are the words. So that was an easy exercise.
And with you showed a screenshot from your website, which is where you very clearly communicate your mission and purpose. Do you do that in any other places in the centre itself? Do you make them visible in the physical location?
We do. We have a slideshow that runs all the time in our community lounge. That just runs I made it into a video basically, so it's got no sound, but it's just showing pictures of what happens here. So I update it every month. So, I put in slides of things that are coming up, but I also put in slides of things that are regular. So all our regular bookings are advertised through that slideshow. And on that slideshow, we have lots of pictures that tell a story. And we also have some words about who we are and what we aspire to. So it's interesting to watch because our community centre office has got a glass wall between the community lounge and us. And so we can see people stop and watch and read, and because we have a lot of people sitting around waiting for their children who's in a dance class or in a piano class. So it is a very well read form of advertising, I think. So it's mostly in that. We don't have it in any other forum around the centre.
There is a question from our chat on how you, because I know that at the community centre you also have custodians who are volunteers who support the running of the centre, and just basically how to attract people to volunteer with the centre. Is that a good question for now, or shall we wait till after the C?
Yeah, I think it's okay for now. It does kind of fit into my first thing on C, which is connect. And how do we seek to connect with a whole, a lot of people. So I'll go to that slide and we'll start with volunteers. I think, we all, as people in community development, just absolutely assume and presume that we all love people and we love being around people, even though sometimes they're not that lovable. And so the main thing for us is to connect and to seek friends in as many areas as we can. Obviously, there's some constraints on that because we don't have that much time to, sit down and have coffees with everyone, but to actually seek to be in relationship with people. So I just put a list of people here or organizations that I have sought out to collaborate with, and there are probably more that I haven't put in here. But if we start with volunteers, yeah, I was interested in that because we didn't have many volunteers here. We did from the church. So if we need a volunteer for an event, for example, we are fortunate that we have another, organization aligned with us, and we can put out a call saying we need volunteers, and this is why we're doing this, and this is how we want you to help us, and this is the kind of way we want you to help. And we do have quite a large pool of people who will do that on a one-off kind of basis. So like when we have our big Halloween event, we ask people to donate lollies. We ask people to donate time. We ask people to come in and help us set up and that kind of thing. So we do have quite a big pool. But we didn't have a lot of people who just came in and did the filing or sorted out the notice boards or cleaned out the kitchen cupboards. That we were a bit short on. And so I've been quite overt about looking for those people now. And we have an English conversation class that happens at our community centre, which is run by church people. But of course, we have about 20 to 30 people who are trying to learn English. So I put the call out through there because a lot of those people are not working yet because they're still trying to learn English and then get their visa and so forth. So I put a call out and said, come and volunteer with us. You'll get to hear English. You'll get to practice your English. We're user-friendly, you'll have a good time. And so now, once you have like probably 2 or 3 or 4, and the downside is they do leave. As soon as they get a job, they're gone. But that's okay. They become friends for life. And now we find we have probably about 4 volunteers coming in each week. So today we've got Ying Ying from China in. And I have a little book, and it sits on the table in the middle of our office. It says volunteer jobs. And anyone who's got a job they think a volunteer can do, they write it in the book. So it might be like Ying Ying sitting in the office right now, cutting out bunny ears. Before that, she was tidying up our notice board. So they're not great jobs, but, volunteers are happy to do it. They're happy to be part of a community. So, yeah, we do have access to volunteers through our church, but we also do try to really invite volunteers. And if we didn't get them through our English conversation, we do have local community Facebook pages that we can post on and say, we're looking for volunteers. And we do get quite a good response from that. So I guess what I'm going to invite you to do, and you don't have to do it now, obviously the PowerPoint will be made available to you, is for yourself in your own context to think about who are you in connection with now. That's really good to be in connection with them. And who do you want to be in connection with that you aren't in connection with yet, but you want to come up with a strategy for connecting with them. So, for example, for us, the Men's Shed has become a wonderful connector, because now they do all these wonderful jobs for us where they make things and help us at events. And so it's finding these organizations where there are a whole lot of volunteers in those organizations who are happy to come along and be part of your community. I wanted to just tell you a little bit about this story, which was a story of us collaborating with someone in our community. If you have a library in your community, and I'm not sure what it's like in Australia, but certainly in New Zealand, if you have a library in your community, you would have noticed over the last 10 years that the library has become a community centre. So people go there, they hang out, they take their children there for story time, for music and movement. They have sewing classes, they have language classes, they have computer classes. They do all sorts of things that traditionally we did. We're the community centre, we do that kind of stuff. The other thing about the library is they have a much bigger budget than us. They have a budget from the council, and they have far more staff than we have. And I'm very intrigued that all these staff are so incredibly multi-talented when they actually have initially only just trained to be a librarian. That's really impressed me about the library. Anyway, so I was thinking when I first came back to this organization, how can we become friends with the library? Because I don't want to have 2 community centres competing. We are literally 300 metres from the St. Heliers library. We have a much bigger space than them. But they have much more staff and a much bigger budget than us. Anyway, while I was thinking about this, I heard the St. Heliers Library was going to have to close to have renovations done. And they were moving into the RSA Hall, which is behind the library, which meant, number one, all the classes and activities that ran in the RSA Hall now were looking for a new home because the library was going to take their home. And 2, the library was not going to have space for all their activities. So I decided to get on the phone and find a new friend, and I met the head librarian and asked her to come have a cup of tea, showed her our premises and said, we would love to support you during your time of being homeless. And we came up with a wonderful situation where we offered them lots of free rent in our community lounge, but when they wanted rooms that were private, our community lounge is open to the public. When they wanted rooms that were private, they booked them and paid for them, but they got a big discount. So that was our collaboration with St. Heliers Library. Here's some examples of what happened. You can see on the left up there is a ukulele group. We've got our little preschoolers from downstairs coming up to sing with them. We had Wriggle and Rhyme, we had book clubs, we had children's holiday programs all happening, lots of them happening in our community lounge. And then just before the library moved back into their newly renovated building, we collaborated together and put on a Matariki festival. So the library and their many tutors came and ran all the workshops for children that were crafty. We also had the recreators, who are upcycling charity, come and do a craft with children. We had people from the community come and teach children flax weaving. And we also had people from the community come in and sing Waiata and, just have a good old sing-along. So that was our Matariki Festival with the St. Heliers Library. That was the Starlight Story Time. We ended the evening with a Starlight Story Time. Of course, we had plenty of wonderful storytellers amongst us with St. Heliers Library. So I think that's just a thing where you sometimes feel like, oh my goodness, we're having to compete with this other organization. It's worthwhile becoming friends and working out how can we collaborate and become partners rather than compete. I must say it's really a little bit harder now they've got their own home again, but we're determined we're going to do a Matariki Festival again this year. And it's just a matter of staying in touch and actually having a cuppa with them every now and then. So just thinking about the words community-centered and, what does that actually mean? Like, is it centered to the community? When I took over this role, one of the girl who was running our bookings was very fierce about people using this, what we now call our community lounge. She would rent this out at $50 an hour. Now, it's a pretty open plan, and it lends itself as a wonderful space for people to come and just sit, have free Wi-Fi, complimentary tea and coffee. We've got a big corner, what we call our kids' corner, with toys, and we always run a colouring competition for children. We've got comfortable couches. So it really, a deck, as you can see, that it opens up onto. So it really lends itself as a free space. And, if you offer something for free, it brings people in. And you get an opportunity to talk to them and to make friends. And before you know it, they go, wow, this is a great space. Hey, do you actually rent out the space? Yeah, we do. We do rent out the space. And then we can show them around and show them all the spaces that are available. And so that's, for me, has been key to what we're trying to do. There's often a tension between, making money and making ends meet and paying our staff and being truly community-centered. And so I think we're fortunate in that we do have a space where we can make it available to all at no cost. So this is probably getting towards my end. My background is in public relations and communications. So this is, very important to me, but I'm sure you'll agree that the way we communicate with our public is absolutely key to what we do. Now, you, no doubt, like me, are in a relationship with SpacetoCo. And SpacetoCo has been such an amazing contributor to our communications plan and our communication strategy. We've always been pretty up on communications because my background's in comms. My husband was a creative director of an advertising agency, so he does all our design for us for free. He's done all our branding for us for free. He designed our website for free. So you've got to find some good friends, especially if the ones that you sleep in bed with are even better, to help you out. This is, again, where you need connections. But, your communication is so important for you to actually think about why do you do what you do and actually tell the public, this is why we do it. We don't do it to put bums in pews. We don't do it to make money. Those things are all side effects. We do it because we believe in community and we want to create a place of belonging and love and nurture and friendship. Be very clear why you do what you do. It's a good exercise to sit down and actually come up with that statement. And then how do you communicate with your community, your clients, your potential clients? Well, we do that through very strong branding. Everything we put out has our brand on it, which you can see on the slide here. We have a good website that I was just looking back actually at our website because we had it redone probably 6 months or 8 months after I started. We started working on getting a new website. The other one was a complete mess. And I just looked to see what she charged us. It was $3,600 to build our website. And we pay her $300 a year to host it. I just think it's been the biggest bargain for us is actually getting that website up and running. It's very easy for us to manage, and we keep it up to date. Every day we're posting and updating. So we have very clear signage. We make use of Facebook. We have our own Facebook, but we also make very good use of community Facebook pages because they have a much bigger reach than we do. And so we make sure we're in good relationship with community Facebook editors. We have posters, we have postcards and brochures, we have slideshows and videos, as you've seen one of SpacetoCo's videos, but we also make our own little slideshows and videos. So this is some examples of the kind of publicity we do. This is a postcard that I've just printed here, but obviously it's back to back, a little A6 postcard, and we've got a few of these. This one's looking at children and families, one's looking at adult learning. So we basically advertise what's happening and what's available through our postcards. And this is our website. So it's just a screenshot taken from the website, but it's a very easy to navigate website and very easy to find information. And for everything that's happening at our centre, we can create a website listing. And we can bring that listing onto the front page. If you scroll down, you'll see a whole lot of tiles. I think it's 8 tiles that has what's coming up in the next days and weeks. And this is more a bit of our branding. You can see we put a very big sign outside the centre that you see as you drive down St Heliers Bay Road towards St Heliers Bay Village and beach. So again, the branding is strong. So that's all from me. There's a little 1-minute video to finish, but I can see there's a few questions I think coming up. So I'll leave that to you, Elle, if there's anything I can deal with.
Yes, well, I've been there's been quite a lot on the chat, so I've got a few questions that I've documented. So one of the earlier questions that came up was around attracting hirers. So I think you've just covered some of that with how you communicate. But if there's anything else in terms of what you do to try and increase the usage of the facility, do you actively outreach to groups that you're interested in coming to the venue? Do you use your list of connections to promote the space to? What other ways do you increase your hirers?
I think, and I was just seeing from Margaret there, she said without a community lounge, it's a bit harder to communicate to the public, and she's right. We're very blessed to have this space. But to be fair, that space existed for the last 30 years and it's never been offered for free until the last year. So it is time to think about what are the little things you can do to bring people in at very little cost to yourself. So we have obviously Wi-Fi that's available. When we had the floods in Auckland last year, we immediately put a post up saying, we know we're not meant to be on the roads, but if you're in the vicinity and you can get here without, endangering yourself or the public, come and work from here. Because a lot of people lost their electricity, didn't have Wi-Fi. We've got Wi-Fi, we've got electricity, we've got tea and coffee. So we're always looking for ways to say to people, hey, we're here. So whether it's an emergency or whatever, to think about how you can offer your space to people. For us, we have, because we're so prominent on a main road and we've been here for so long, a lot of people just come in through the door. We obviously have big notice boards outside too with, what's happening and so forth. That we have a lot of walking traffic because it's on the way to the beach. So people do come in and look at our notice boards and come and ask about things. And so it's all just word of mouth and friendship, really. If we get stuck, like last year, we had a dance school by their own premises, and they've been using our premises for years. There was a big client. We go to SpacetoCo. So we ask. We go, hey, we got a problem, SpacetoCo. We need help. And we found Elle and her team to be so amazing and to say, hey, we can help you. We can advertise it. We can put it through Facebook. We can, so that's part of what you pay. It's not, you're not just paying SpacetoCo for your wonderful booking system. You're paying them for advice and marketing. And so we have really benefited from that. And within weeks, I think, Elle, we had a new dance client in our studio who now is actually bigger than the last dance client because she's just booked some more spaces and more times. And so it's kind of, it's hard because there's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, the more people you have, the more people you get, because the more people you have, the more people speak to each other. But, still the other day, someone came in to do some photography for our dance studio. And she wasn't coming to do it for us. She was coming to do it for our client. And she said, I have lived in this community for over 30 years. I have never been in this building. I didn't even know it was a community centre. Well, I actually said to her, wash your mouth out. Haven't you noticed our amazing branding all over the place? Anyway, she's become a bit of a friend now, and we have a thing in the front of as you walk in on the left, called our kindness corner, where we collect food for the local food bank. We collect baby products for Petal Foundation. And she noticed that, and she said, my daughter, her heart's breaking because of homeless people. And she's created all these little care packs for homeless people, but she doesn't know how to get them to the homeless people. Would you mind distributing them? And while she's talking to me, one of our homeless men came in for a cup of tea. And so, it was instant. But it's there. So again, it's just being really visible. Like, where's your office? Can people see you when they come in the door? Because it's being visible is the more you can talk to people, the more you can connect, the more you can get the word out that who you are and what you can offer to the community.
The other thing I'd add to that, Jill, and what I loved about your communication strategy is just don't forget that the vast majority of people that come into your centre are probably not the people that hired it. So the more you can do to have little posters and cards or back of toilet doors, most people will visit the toilet when they visit a centre, is, tell them about your hire, that it starts for free, and just let people, and give them a link to book, because that footfall of people coming for the dance class or the dog training class or whatever it is, they're your next batch of hirers.
That's right. And we always say to people, if you have an idea for building community, we will support you. So we might support you by giving you free rent. We might support you by doing publicity for you, which we would always do if they're using our space anyway. But we are here to build community. So if you want to build community and a place of belonging and you don't have any money, we will make it happen with you. We won't do it for you, but we will sponsor you, because people like that often have an idea, but don't know whether the idea is going to fly. And so they don't want to commit the $50 an hour or the $30 an hour, whatever it is, but they have a really good idea. And so we'll say, look, let's do it for 4 weeks. We'll go out to support you. We'll promote it. You promote it. Let's give it a go. If it works, then let's talk about rent once you go into the next phase of this, program or activity. So we obviously we're not doing that all the time, but that's one of our messages that we try to get out.
Another question we had, Jill, was particularly as you're quite a busy centre and you go to quite late at night, what do you do in terms of managing those late at night hires? Do you have someone on site? Do you have a post-event checklist? Do you have people letting them in and out? How do you manage bookings?
Yeah, when I took over the centre, so I was asked to come back and do a review of the community centre because it was losing $200,000 a year. And if the community centre is losing $200,000 a year, and that's with getting funding from Auckland Council, the only people who can keep it propped up are the church people. So they were in a panic because they were having to dig quite deep into their pockets. And the first thing I did was look at the staffing, and we were completely overstaffed. We had receptionists on board from 8 a.m. in the morning till 10 p.m. at night every day. It was costing us $70,000 a year to have receptionists. So we said, well, the first thing we have to do is to do redundancies. We have to get rid of all our receptionists. We don't need receptionists. We have people in the office who work, whether it's me as a centre manager or the operations person or the facilities person. We all are expected to deal with the public. We're all expected to know how to at least drive SpacetoCo enough so we can tell people whether the room's available and how much it costs. So we all do customer service. There's no hierarchy at all. So we don't need receptionists. The receptionists were not even welcoming people. They weren't even hospitable. It was just an absolute farce. So the first thing we did was get rid of all our receptionists, and we put in a locking system where you get a code. And so our doors, everything is scheduled. We know exactly what's happening through SpacetoCo, so who's coming in. So when we leave at 5:30 at night, we know that these groups are all coming in. So the doors stay open to receive people. If there's only one group, if I'm leaving at 5:30 and there's only one group coming in at 8, then the door will lock behind me and it'll be scheduled to open at 7:45. So when the person comes, the door will be open. If that's not going to work, the client will be given a code. So whenever a client uses a code, we know exactly who entered, what time they entered, and what time they exited. And that's all we have. We do have cameras in our some of our areas, not the whole centre, but we do have some strategic cameras, and we make sure people know that. So if there is any, violation of our rules, we can actually normally work out who did it and when they did it. So the two things we invested in, actually we invested three things all in 1 year, which was extremely costly. We invested in cameras, a new locking system that you just have to put a code in and it grabs all the data for you as to who's using it, how long they were here for, etc. And SpacetoCo. Those are the three things we went for, and all of them have been so well worth the investment. In the long term, they've made us a much better and much more viable business.
With especially with big investments in infrastructure like locking systems and cameras, it's worth, if you are a community-led venue, looking at things like local board funding as well, and getting sponsorship from local businesses, because they can be a big outlay, but the return on investment in community, with you being able to do extended opening hours so that you can better serve the community, and provide safe spaces for people to have family celebrations or other things like that, is a return on investment in the community. So there's a really good, I think, return on investment case for those bigger infrastructure spends that can just make the place a lot safer, but also used, in later hours.
And if you consider how much staffing costs, it's so much cheaper than staffing.
Another question, Jill, from Connie. So you guys are really good at getting lots of beautiful pictures and videos up on your Facebook page about what's going on in the centre, cross-promoting the groups and who's coming and going. Do you have someone in your staff team that takes those images and videos? Do the groups take them? How do you share them? And how can you, I suppose, get more content from what's going on in your centre shared without it being a huge tax on the team?
So with all our rentals, we ask them to please send us a poster of the event. And we then, so I do all the social media and I do the comms basically. So as soon as someone books in, we send them an email saying, could you please send us publicity material? So we need a poster, we need information, we've got a little template, what information that we need. And that then comes through, and then I load it in as a website listing, and then I work out who's going to go on the front page. So the closer we get to that event, they'll move into the front page. And then I also do Facebook posts that I schedule through the week to come up a couple of days before the event. So most of that photography is done by our client. They just send us. Sometimes recently we had a client who's starting a new exercise class for seniors, and she just didn't have the skills she was really struggling to do a poster. So I said, I'll do a poster for you. That's no problem. It's not like I do it often. I just went onto her website, pulled off information, pulled off some photographs, and did a poster, sent it through to her, said, are you happy with this? She said, yes. So I will do that because my background's in comms. I like doing that kind of thing. We don't offer it, but if someone's struggling to give us information that will present their group or their activity well, then we will create a poster for them. As far as the actual venue photos go, we actually, SpacetoCo did lots of good venue photos for us, so that's a huge help. But we actually were selling our house, and we had an amazing photographer come and do our photograph our home. And we were so impressed with the photographs he did. We asked him if he does freelance work, and he said yes. And he came and did our entire centre, which is a big place, plus Glendowie Centre, which we also manage, for under $2,000. So it was the most amazing investment, because now we have the most beautiful pictures of every single room. Plus, because he was used to staging for a real estate agent, he staged our whole building. He moved furniture around, put flowers there. He just went beyond the call of duty. And so all our outdoor photos, all our indoor photos were done by a local photographer who works for Barfoots as a freelancer.
And another example of just using your connections and asking for help. That's fantastic. I think I have gone through all the questions that came up on the chat. So just if there are any more questions, please jot them down in the chat. Otherwise, we'll wrap up soon. But there's so many great tips there, Jill. in particular, I loved your tip around walking around your centre and using your senses to actually see what's there and what you'd like it to be. I think, especially if we work in our venues day after day, you can kind of go a bit blind to what a new person might see or hear or smell when they enter the venue. And that was just such a great tip. I also loved everything you said on using your connections, particularly the story about attracting volunteers through value exchange. You know, if you've got a group that are doing English classes and this could help them improve their English through volunteering and getting a reference perhaps, that's such a fantastic way to kind of have a lovely virtuous cycle of bringing people into help, but also helping them as well. You talked a lot about the church and the amazing community you have there, but I think most venues will have an organisation near them that could be that foundation of support, be it a school, a church, or a sports organisation that could help. And I loved just some of the reflection questions you gave in terms of asking yourself, you know, who you're in connection with, who are the people that support, and who do you want to be in connection with if you're not with already, and just thinking really strategically about, you know, could Citizens Advice Bureau be someone that we need to talk to? Could the library help us out? Could our local board be helpful to us? Local businesses, a great place, you know, if you're near a village, great place to let people know that there is this amazing space that people can go to. Good tip. So I'm just checking in the chat back for questions, and Darren has shared, and this is such a fantastic tool if you want to do posters and leaflets and business cards. Canva.com has a free license for any community non-for-profit, which is most community venues, so we highly recommend that. We use that for all of our marketing stuff as well, and there's just so many lovely messages of thanks, Jill, for sharing all of your information and tips. Just heaps for people to get started with. So just thank you so much for your time. I will.
If anyone has more questions or wants, you know, templates or you know, things that I've shared that I could actually share with you, don't hesitate to.
Yes,
get in touch.
Absolutely. Yeah, and as Jill says, you know, always feel free to ask for help. So we have this incredible community of hundreds of venues. So we've had people ask us things like, you know, what HR systems people use in their community centres. We're happy to go and ask our network of people, or you know, share the knowledge around. That's part of what we do at SpacetoCo is creating a community of venues who care about the same thing. So always come to us for help. We're happy to put people in touch, and happy to put people in touch with Jill. Thank you so much, Jill. I've got another question from Margaret, which I might answer. I'm happy to stay on and answer that, Margaret, because that's a really good question. But yeah, thank you so much, Jill. We'll end the session there. Thank you so much, everyone, and happy to share details, etc. And then, yeah, I'm just going to stay on and answer that question for Margaret, because it's a great one. So if anyone wants to hang around and ask more questions, they're very welcome to. So Margaret says, how can these ideas help our small hall without staff or lounge areas? I think just going back to what Jill says is, because you have a space, you have the ability to give something away for free, which is just such a great way to get people into the space. So even if it is putting a post out saying we're happy to have new groups who can have the session for the first 4 for free, that's a good way to get people started. Using it as a coordination point for food banks, or sharing other resources in the community is another thing you can do for free. Even if it's small things like putting a couple of beanbags outside in the summer, that's a free space you can create. So even if you don't have the size of space or the resources that Jill has at her community centre, there's still lots you can do even with a small space, I think, with that sort of get started for free mentality of like, what can we have that we can give that can help bring people into the space. So Margaret, hopefully that answered your questions as well. And Jill, I'll say thanks again and end the session. But again, thank you so much.
Thank you.